The massive conference hall echoed with dismissive laughter as alien delegates discussed the newest species to emerge from a distant spiral arm of the galaxy. Humans, they declared, were nothing more than primitive creatures barely capable of understanding their own technological limitations. Ambassador Krell from the Orion Stellar Confederation leaned back in his crystalline chair, his translucent skin rippling with disdain. "These humans," he proclaimed to the gathered representatives, "are perhaps the most unimpressive species we've encountered in 1,000 cycles of galactic exploration." Around him, delegates from dozens of advanced civilizations nodded in agreement. Holographic displays flickered with data points showing humanity's seemingly insignificant technological achievements. Their primitive space exploration, limited to a single solar system. Their crude weapons. Their basic understanding of quantum mechanics. On the far side of the conference chamber, a single human observer sat quietly. Una Park watched and listened, her dark eyes taking in every nuance of the conversation. She was the diplomatic liaison, chosen not for her ability to argue, but for her remarkable ability to observe and understand. The conference continued, a symphony of mockery directed at humanity's apparent weaknesses. They spoke of humans as if they were children playing with tools they couldn't possibly comprehend. Their communication technologies were deemed rudimentary. Their space exploration efforts were considered laughable. "They haven't even developed stable faster-than-light travel," one delegate whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "How could they possibly contribute anything meaningful to our galactic community?" Una remained silent, her notebook filled with careful observations. Each dismissive comment, each moment of ridicule was meticulously recorded. She understood something the other delegates did not. That potential often hides in the most unexpected places. Outside the conference hall, the universe continued its silent dance. Massive star systems swirled in cosmic patterns, unaware of the conversations happening within this chamber of galactic diplomacy, unaware that a storm was brewing, a storm that would challenge everything these advanced civilizations believed about strength and survival. The delegates continued their discussion, completely unaware that their assumptions about humanity would soon be dramatically challenged. They saw weakness where extraordinary potential actually existed. They perceived limitation where incredible adaptability was waiting to be unleashed. Una Park knew something was coming. She could feel it in the way the diplomatic currents were shifting. The universe had a way of surprising those who believed themselves most intelligent, most advanced. As the conference concluded, the alien delegates congratulated themselves on their superior understanding of galactic dynamics. They drafted official documents describing humans as a developing species, a polite way of saying they were essentially irrelevant. Little did they know that humanity's true strength was not in their technology, but in their ability to adapt, to think differently, to solve problems in ways no one could predict. The conference hall emptied. Holographic displays powered down. Alien delegates returned to their respective star systems, confident in their assessment of humanity's place in the universe. Una Park remained seated, a small smile playing at the corner of her mouth. She knew something they did not. She understood that potential is not measured by current capabilities, but by the capacity to grow, to learn, to transform. The first chapter of humanity's true story was about to begin, and no one in that conference hall had the slightest idea. As the last of the alien delegates departed, casting final dismissive glances at the human representative, Una Park closed her notebook. She knew that sometimes the most powerful stories start with being underestimated. The universe held its breath, waiting. The first reports came quietly, almost unnoticed. A remote research station near the Carina Nebula went silent. Then another. Then an entire communication network collapsed within minutes. Captain J. Kim received the initial transmission from deep space monitoring stations. The data was strange, not like any invasion pattern they had ever seen before. Something was consuming entire star systems, leaving nothing behind but quantum residue and cold, empty space. The Galactic Coalition's most advanced sensor networks struggled to understand the threat. These were not traditional attackers. No weapons could be detected. No standard invasion signatures appeared in their scans. It was as if entire star systems were simply disappearing. Quantum devourers moved through space like ghosts, consuming matter at a fundamental level. They didn't destroy planets or ships. They erased them completely. Molecular structures simply collapsed, then vanished into nothingness. Admiral Hyun Lee watched the holographic displays with growing horror. Entire civilizations were being wiped, out faster than they could even comprehend the threat. The most advanced defense systems became useless. Shields, weapons, quantum barriers, nothing worked. "This is impossible," one senior scientist muttered, her hands shaking as she reviewed the incoming data. The quantum devourers seemed to exist between dimensions, moving through space in ways that defied all known physical laws. Panic began to spread through the galactic coalition. Species that had existed for millions of years suddenly found themselves facing total extinction. Communication networks crashed. Defense systems failed. The most technologically advanced civilizations became helpless. Each consumed star system, left behind only a cold, empty region of space. No debris, no radiation signatures, nothing that could be tracked or understood. The quantum devourers moved with a purpose that no one could comprehend. Una Park watched the initial reports, her scientific mind racing. While others panicked, she began analyzing the quantum patterns. Something about the way these entities moved suggested a complex system, not random destruction, but something more calculated. The alien delegates who had mocked humanity just weeks earlier now desperately sought solutions. Their most advanced technologies had become useless. Quantum shields dissolved. Faster than light systems collapsed. Entire defensive networks became nothing more than scattered memories. Deep in research facilities across multiple star systems, scientists worked frantically, but each solution failed faster than the last. The quantum devourers adapted instantly, consuming any defensive strategy almost before it could be implemented. Space itself seemed to tremble. Entire civilizations that had existed for millions of years were being erased in moments. The universe suddenly felt small, fragile, completely vulnerable. No one understood where the quantum devourers came from. No one knew their motivation. They simply consumed, moving through space with a purpose that defied all known scientific understanding. Captain J. Kim prepared his most advanced fleet, knowing deep down that traditional warfare would be useless. Something different was needed. Something no one had yet imagined. The alien races that had once laughed at humanity now looked with desperate hope. Their most advanced technologies had failed. Their most brilliant minds were speechless. Something was happening that challenged everything they believed about reality, about survival, about the very nature of existence. Una Park continued her quiet research, seeing patterns where others saw only chaos. She understood that sometimes the most elegant solutions come from looking at a problem completely differently. The quantum devourers continued their silent march through the universe. Star systems disappeared. Entire civilizations were erased. And in the background, something unexpected was beginning to take shape. A solution would come, but not from where anyone expected. Dr. Una Park's research laboratory looked nothing like the high-tech facilities of alien civilizations. Simple computers, handwritten notes, walls covered with complex mathematical equations and strange diagrams that seemed to make no sense. While advanced alien scientists worked with massive quantum computers, Una worked with something more fundamental: pure human creativity. She saw the quantum devourers not as a military problem, but as a communication challenge. Her theory was radical. Most scientists believed the devourers were destroying matter. Una believed they were trying to communicate. Every pattern suggested a complex language, not random destruction. "They're not attacking," she told Captain J. Kim during a private briefing. "They're attempting communication through the only method they understand." The Galactic Coalition listened with skepticism. Alien researchers had spent months developing complex weapon systems. Una proposed something completely different: a communication protocol that could translate quantum wave patterns. Her initial experiments seemed absurd. She used modified radio transmission equipment, communication wave modulators, and a series of mathematical algorithms that combined human linguistic patterns with quantum mechanics. Most senior scientists laughed. How could simple communication technology solve a problem that had destroyed entire civilizations? But Una understood something profound. Communication isn't about complexity, it's about understanding. And humans had always been extraordinary communicators. She worked tirelessly, often sleeping in her laboratory. Her team consisted of young researchers who believed in her vision, a mixture of mathematicians, linguists, and quantum physicists who saw beyond traditional scientific boundaries. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a routine test, one of her quantum wave modulators produced a strange resonance signal. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a defense system. It was a message, a response. The quantum devourers, for the first time, stopped their systematic destruction. The signal had caught their attention in a way no weapon ever could. Captain J. Kim watched in amazement as Yuna's team continued refining the communication protocol. They weren't preparing for war. They were preparing to understand. Alien researchers who had previously mocked humanity now watched with growing interest. Something unprecedented was happening. A species they had considered primitive was potentially solving a problem that had destroyed countless advanced civilizations. Yuna's approach was uniquely human. Where others saw destruction, she saw a conversation waiting to happen. Where others prepared weapons, she prepared understanding. Her communication protocol began revealing strange patterns. The quantum devourers weren't simply consuming matter. They were searching, looking for something, trying to communicate their own existential need in the only way they knew how. The Galactic Coalition held its breath. Entire scientific teams from multiple civilizations now studied Yuna's research. Her simple approach was becoming their last hope. Communication wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about curiosity, about being willing to listen, about understanding that difference doesn't mean threat. As her team continued working, something remarkable began to happen. The quantum devourers' movement started changing. Their consumption slowed. Their patterns became more structured. They were listening. Humanity, once considered the most insignificant species, was about to change everything. The universe watched and waited. The intervention began quietly, without massive fleets or complex weaponry. Just a small team of humans, led by Captain J. Kim, carrying Una Park's modified communication devices. Their mission seemed impossible. Stop creatures that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity. No one believed they could succeed. The first contact zone was a dead stellar region where multiple civilizations had already been consumed. Silence hung heavy in space. No radiation, no signals, just emptiness. Captain Kim's small research vessel moved carefully. 6 team members, basic equipment, modified communication systems that looked more like experimental radio devices than advanced technology. Yuna's protocol was simple. Don't attack. Don't defend. Communicate. As they approached the quantum region, strange energy patterns started appearing. Massive quantum waves shifted around their small vessel. Normal ship systems began malfunctioning. Electronic networks collapsed. But their specialized communication modules remained active. The quantum devourers noticed them immediately. Massive energy signatures surrounded the human vessel. Where other civilizations would have panicked, this team remained calm. Transmit sequence Alpha, Captain Kim instructed. The communication module began sending complex wave patterns. Not a weapon, not a defense signal, just pure, structured information, mathematical sequences, linguistic patterns, universal constants. Something unexpected happened. The quantum energy around them started changing. Instead of consuming, the devourers began listening. Humans had done what no advanced civilization could. They approached the unknown with curiosity, not fear. With communication, not aggression. Hours passed. The small vessel remained surrounded by quantum energy. But it wasn't being destroyed. It was being studied. Yuna's research suggested that the quantum devourers weren't simply destructive entities. They were seeking something fundamental about existence, and humanity had just started a conversation. The Galactic Coalition watched in disbelief. Their most advanced sensor networks tracked the human vessel. Where massive battleships had failed, a small research team was making first contact. Captain Kim's team continued transmitting mathematical sequences, cultural information, basics, understanding of human existence, not as a threat but as an invitation to understand. The quantum energy began forming complex patterns. No longer random, no longer destructive. Something was happening that challenged everything known about interstellar communication. Slowly, carefully, the quantum devourers started revealing their own patterns, not through weapons, not through destruction, through communication. Humanity had done what no other civilization could. They had transformed a potential apocalyptic threat into a dialogue. The universe held its breath. Yuna Park stood before representatives from thousands of alien civilizations. Her simple presentation revealed how humanity had transformed the greatest threat in galactic history into a potential understanding. Dui, quantum devourers they discovered were not destroyers. They were survivors. Ancient entities searching for connection, for communication, for understanding. Humanity had been the first species to recognize this fundamental truth. Ambassador Krell, who once mocked humans as primitive, now sat in stunned silence. The same species he had ridiculed had saved multiple civilizations from complete destruction. Dr. Park's research showed something profound. The quantum devourers were not attacking. They were communicating through the only method they understood: total molecular restructuring. Humanity had translated their language of destruction into a language of connection. Captain J. Kim received the highest military honor, not for combat, but for communication, for understanding, for transforming a potential apocalypse into dialogue. The alien delegates who had once laughed at humanity now looked with respect. A species they considered insignificant had solved a problem that had defeated the most advanced civilizations in the universe. Sensor networks across multiple star systems confirmed the transformation. The quantum devourers were no longer consuming star systems. They were learning, communicating, existing in a new way discovered through human intervention. Yuna's team became legendary, not as warriors, but as communicators, as bridge builders between incomprehensible entities. The universal understanding changed. Technology was not about weapons. It was about communication, about curiosity, about being willing to listen. Humanity's approach was uniquely different. Where others saw threat, they saw opportunity. Where others prepared for war, they prepared for understanding. The Galactic Coalition restructured its entire first contact protocols. Human researchers were now considered the most valuable diplomatic assets. Their ability to think differently, to approach the unknown with curiosity, became the new standard. Ambassador Krell approached Yuna Park after the presentation. The alien who once mocked humanity now looked with genuine respect. "We were wrong about your species," he admitted. "Completely and totally wrong." Yuna simply smiled. Humanity had never sought validation. They had simply done what seemed necessary. The quantum entities that had consumed entire civilizations now sought to understand humanity. They transmitted complex information patterns. Cultural exchanges began. A new form of interstellar communication emerged. No massive battles had been fought. No advanced weapons deployed, just human creativity, human curiosity, human ability to see beyond the obvious. Captain Kim reflected on their mission. They had not conquered. They had connected. The universe would never be the same. Humanity had proven that the most powerful technology is not a weapon. It is understanding. Quantum devourers continued their cosmic journey, but now they traveled with a new purpose, not to consume, but to communicate. And it had all started with a simple human belief. that every entity, no matter how strange, wants to be understood. The Godot. Galaxy watched in wonder.